All right, Kirk, I'm just doing this video so you'll have a general reference on what you receive. Of course, you've seen the bike here. It basically comes with, a regular bell. You have like regular Walmart lights. You press on the front of it, it turns it on. Has 3 different brightnesses and a flash mode. The last click turns it off. I'm going to include a flashlight. This flashlight, it shines pretty damn bright and it will blind pedestrians and other cars. So it kind of aids you a little bit, but there's 3 different brightnesses. You just kind of do a half press, go through the 3 brightness levels. There's a flash mode, and then the last one is a SOS. And a full press turns it off. You have a rear light here, does the same thing as the front. Has 3 different brightness levels: low, medium, high, and flash. All right, the bike is pretty much stock as far as most of the stock gearing. The pedals have been upgraded, to some like BMX style pedals with the spikes in it to kind of give your shoes a better grip. And the Bafang bit drive system that was installed by a bike shop. Everything, the whole bike was assembled by a bike shop. So everything is pretty much tuned. I did a ride on it. It was shifting through the gears fine. To turn on the bike, you press this button right here. Kind of hold it down and then the screen comes on. And it starts off in assist level 1. There's 9 assist levels, so you just go up until you get in the level that you want. Normally, if I'm doing like regular riding, I'll stay somewhere in between 2 and 4, depending. And then, of course, you still have the throttle. And if you want like full power and full throttle, you just put it in assist level 9, and then you have full power on the throttle. But in pass, it'll be half power. So the speedos are pretty close. The psychoanalyst will be more accurate. The psychoanalyst will also act as your fuel gauge. Of course, you should know how the psychoanalyst works. That's your voltage. That's how much watts that's being consumed. That's how many miles you've been. That's how many amp hours you've been. And that's your miles per hour. This will be kind of act as your fuel gauge. So whenever it switches over to the amp hour, that'll show how many amp hours you consumed out of the battery. So right now I've consumed 1.5 amp hours out of the battery. The battery is a 44 volt, 40 amp hour battery. So theoretically, at the current pace, there's only like 40 miles of charge. I was riding it pretty hard in my hilly area, but you should get about 2 miles per amp hour if you really weren't trying to pedal. If you're pedaling, you'll get 3 to 4 amp hours per mile. So you can kind of use that as a fuel gauge to kind of pace yourself. Other than that, here's another thing. You press the plus button over here and it turns on the backlight. So like right now the backlight is on. Press it again. Turns the backlight off. That comes in handy at night. The system automatically cuts off after 5 minutes, or otherwise just hold the power button to cut it off. All right, this is a unique tire size. They're 27.5. There's not really a lot of road options for this, road tire options for this bike, so I kind of picked a hybrid that should give like the best of both worlds without it feeling rough while riding on the street. This bike does have Presto valves, so you basically take the cap off, you unscrew the, let me just unscrew it. So you unscrew the cap, and then there's a valve here. You unscrew it a little bit, and then you should be able to just press on it, and it'll let out the air. Screw it back tight when you're done adding or removing air. So when you're adding air, you loosen it. When you're done adding air, you tighten it back up and you put the cap back on. You have a Presto valve pump. So That's the only thing that's different. I think your bike has a old Schrader valve. This one just uses Presta. I run the tires pretty hard. They're at 50 pounds. You could probably run 30 or 40. I'll probably run 35 or 40 at your weight. You already know how to use the lockout. It's locked out now because I'm a heavier person and the suspension sags too much. But you know how to operate it. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. The hydros are self-adjusting, and they may not seem like they have a lot of braking force, but they do work. If you grab them, they will throw you off the bike. So that's a good thing, and they're broken in. This area should be fine here. I can get my finger in right there. The bag should have enough support, enough hold to keep it above the crank. But be mindful of that. If you drop the bike or whatever, make sure you check and see if the bag is shifted, because I think we saw once where the bag had shifted over too far and it was kind of in close proximity to the crank. So that's another thing to be mindful for. But I ran these bags and they're pretty reliable and they hold up pretty well. To go on a little bit deeper, here's the battery. I'm just opening it up just a little bit. You shouldn't never have to take any of this out for anything. So you have 8 of these green batteries in there. So basically, each one of them is a 22 volt, 10 amp hour battery. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That makes up one group for 40 amp hours. Then you have another one, 1, 2, 3, 4. That makes up the other group for 40 amp hours. And they're permanently paralleled at the main leads. And then I created a custom balance tap, a 4-to-1 balance tap for them. So you can balance charge them. Basically, if you've seen the other video, you should know how to balance charge the battery, but I'm gonna go over it again. Again, make sure you unplug this connector block first. And I think, well, I'm gonna go ahead and mention now in the video, since you love label makers so much, go ahead and put like unplug this first or something, and like put something on here. Did you unplug the balance tap? I mean, did you unplug the series cable? Because this is your series cable that series these packs. So when we unplug it, when we unplug this connector, it basically puts the packs back in a state where they're individualized. This connector series it. And then this is the connector that you use this is the connector that you use to balance charge. And I would, especially since you're buying my charger, I would just go ahead and balance charge every cycle. The packs are pretty, I mean, they're holding an extremely good balance. But since it's so easy, like I say, if I did like a continuous video of me rolling the bike up, plugging in the charger and plugging in the packs, I bet I can do it in less than 30 seconds. So there's no excuse not to balance charge since I made it so easy for you. Okay, I'm about to show you how to use this charger. This is your charger. You saw in the other video how I use it. Now I'm gonna just kind of go in depth a little bit more on how to use it. Basically, I'm going to give you 4 power supplies. 2 of them are in series for 24 volts and 1500 watts. If you just so choose to run the charger full tilt, the bottom one, the larger one with the tape around it, is the one that you would want to use to get full power. I also have a smaller one on the left. It's a 575 watt power supply. I guess you could leave that at work or something like that. And then I also have another one that's a single unit, 750 watt. The difference between that one and the others is I did the modification that the fan is permanently quiet. So when you plug it in and under full load, the fan stays at a low speed. I wouldn't beat on that one too much, but if you're in your house and you want to kind of charge in a hurry, but you don't want it screaming loud, then I would use that power supply, because the other ones, they ramp up with load and they can get kind of loud and it sounds like a jet engine taking off. the proper procedure on how to use these power supplies is basically you'll plug the ends of the charger into the power supply and then plug the power supply into the wall. So I'm going to do that now. And I'm going to use my 750 watt power supply. So let's go ahead and plug that in right now. So it's plugged in, and I'm going to plug in the AC cable. All right, you hear it rev up, but it'll quiet down to a quiet speed that's barely audible. And so you have your charger here. The charger is the way that I'm gonna deliver it to you is going to be set up automatically to where you can start charging your e-bike battery on this bike, and then it also should be set up to where with minimum change you can charge the your test battery for the other build. So basically what we're going to do here is, if you were just pulling into the house, you will make sure these two are unplugged. When you're sure that they're unplugged, basically you will take your charge cable. This is a parallel charge cable. It'll parallel all of these packs on the main leads to charge. So I'm going to do that now. All right, so I plugged that in. All right, this pack should be pretty much charged. It's at 25.007. So I took a little bit out of the pack, but it's mostly charged. But we want to do a balance charge, so we want to plug in the balance tap. So here's the balance tap. So it's a long cable, and basically what's going on here is on this charger, it's like having two chargers in one, but to get more power out of it and have it balance faster and everything, we're going to use the parallel cable, which comes with the charger, which I'm including with the charger. So basically it bridges both ports together to one connector. And so like I said, your charge cable plugs into this and it goes up and plugs in right there. So it's, you know, it bridges both ports, and in the software there's a option for synchronous and asynchronous. Right now it's in synchronous mode. Like I said, it's using both sides of the charger to charge, and it definitely allows it to draw more power and use it efficiently. And even the balance taps are put in parallel, so you have maximum balancing power. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and connect the balance taps, because right now they're not populating on the charger. You'll see when I plug them in, you'll see them populate right here, and it'll show the balance of the pack. So let me plug that in right now. Right now the balance taps are plugged in. So right now we have the main leads plugged in up here, and they're paralleling both pack groups. Like I said, there's 8 packs total, but they're split into 2 groups. There's 4 here and 4 here. And so this plug, it parallels all of that together at the main lead so the charger can charge it. But also, since we have the balance taps here, I have 4-to-1 balance taps for this pack, and I have 4-to-1 balance taps for this pack. And so 4-to-1, 4-to-1, you're going to have two plugs. And so we're taking another plug and paralleling those together, so it's one plug. So right now, this just looks like one big, huge pack, and the charger is actually looking at a 22.2 volt, 80 amp hour battery. That's how it's going to charge it, and that's how it's going to balance it. It's just going to charge and balance it as one big ass battery. And so we go down here and look at the balance of the charger. So the balance is pretty tight. And so basically what we do is you hit the stop button, make sure LiPo is selected. And there's the charge option. And so like I said, to select or change the options over here, you want to hit the tab 6 button, which is this button right here. Then you'll see something change. There'll be like a red box that highlights, and so if you use the knob here, you can highlight different things. And so basically we want to tell it to ignore the capacity. The cell should be on auto, but realistically we want to go ahead and set that to 6S. It should automatically detect it, but I'm gonna go ahead and set that up as 6S for you. Whenever right now we're at the charge current, whenever we are running one power supply, you want to charge at about 20 amps. But 20 amps stays within the limit of this power supply. I think we can get up maybe up to 25, but we'll see. I'll check and see what we can do. So let me go ahead and change that to 20. And to select it, basically this center button presses in. So like I said, you highlight one of the options, you highlight them. So right now I want to change the current amps, and so I'm going to press on this button. And when it presses on the button, it highlights it in black, and then you can turn the wheel left or right, and you just go to your desired amperage. So I want to put it at 20 amps. So we put it on 20 amps. To select that and save it, you hit it again, and it highlights it. Now you can scroll to something else. I always put it on slow balance. I'd just rather have an ultra balance pack than just to hurry up and ride. So I'm gonna leave that on slow balance, and then you just rotate over to start, and you select that, and then it says, are you sure you want to run? You hit yes. And so you should see the charger ramp up. You know, you'll have current over here climbing, current over here climbing. Down here, I'll give the total. Down here, it'll give you the wattage. It'll give you the voltage of the power supply. Right here, it gives how many amps that it's pulling from the power supply. It's pulling 49 amps. And with this one, it's pulling a lot. It's pulling near the rating. Well, it's actually only pulling 500 watts, which I think is kind of okay. We could actually get a little bit more out of it. This charger can go up to 60 amps. But we're just going to leave it as is. Definitely if you're running 24 volt power supply, we could push this up to like 50 amps easy. So give me 1 second. And I'm just going to go ahead and change. And well, basically you did hear me running this charger at a pretty aggressive amperage, 49 amps, which is pretty much almost like 80%, 80 to 90% of the rating of the power supply. We plug the charger into the power supply when it's off, and so I'm gonna do that now. So right now, of course, it's self-explanatory. Plug the black into that, black lead into that, the red lead into that. There should be a jumper going in between the two units. And basically, I'm going to plug in one power supply and then plug in the other. You'll hear the charger come on, and the charger will read a low voltage 11.2, so we need to go ahead and power up that second power supply. Alright, so I plugged in the second power supply, and so we're at 24.37. And so the same thing still applies, but we're going to change the current. So, and then these are the power supplies that have the automatic regulated fan. So, and I would suggest that if you can deal with the noise, use the power supplies with a regulated fan. It just ensures that the power supply is going to be sufficiently cool. I have ran the other one without the fan, but under moderate loads. So I'm not exactly sure how long it could actually go with the low fan speed, but it does work. You know, it can work. under low fan speed, but I just don't recommend it. But I'm giving you the option as long as you keep the amperage down. So we're gonna go ahead and select LiPo. Charge is already selected. All right, so basically charge is selected, and I want to change the amperage up. So I'm gonna hit tab, and then that unselects charge and allows me to switch over to the other group. So I use the turn knob, switch over to the 20 amp option, select that, and then I can boost this up to, let's say, let's do 50 amps. All right, so 50 amps is selected. I'm going to go ahead and hit start. All right, so we should see the charger ramping up to 50 amps now. Now this puts it at a very, very high charge rating. It's not going to climb to 50 because the battery is fully charged, but we're doing almost 900 watts. It's steady going down because, like I said, the battery has a full charge. But you hear the power supplies, they revved up. I don't think they're terribly loud, but using this setup can definitely get the bike charged very, very quickly. It should take 1.5 hours to charge the bike. And when you hit stop, since the fans are regulated by the load, they automatically ramp down to their no load fan speed. So you can kind of tell when the bike is almost done because the fans will start ramping down and they'll get quiet, and that'll let you know that it's almost done charging or that it's finished charging. But other than that, that's pretty much how you charge the battery pack on this bike. And whenever you're done, you just go ahead and disconnect these two. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug that. Unplug that. Unplug this. All right, this gets pushed back up in there, out of the way, and then you connect these two back together, and, put that right there and zip everything up. And that's how you would charge the battery. And that's a balanced charge. And like I said, if I were to do this in a continuous shot, you'll see that it's you can do this very, very quickly. Stuff isn't all falling out the bag if you do it correctly. So that's how I would charge the bike. I wouldn't even fool around. I mean, you could use your Zivin charger on this, and if you use your Zivin charger, you wouldn't even unplug any of this. You'll basically undo this right here, and then you'll plug it into this connector here, and the Zivin will start charging, and it will charge it up to about, I would say roughly about 95% charge with the Zivin charger. And since these batteries are new and they're really balanced really, really well, you could bulk charge it several times. But again, you have a pretty sophisticated charger that has a lot of checks built in. The Zivin charger just blindly charges the pack and looks at the overall pack voltage, but this is looking at the pack voltage and the cell voltage, and it knows when to stop, and is balancing the pack also. So it just makes sense to go ahead and use this charger. I don't think it has a terribly big footprint, and like I said, the cables are long enough to where, I think I got 3 feet of cable here, so you could definitely put it, on a table somewhere, or put it on the floor. In this case, it's on the floor, and it can reach everything fine. Other than that, I think that's it for charging. And basically, another thing that I would do, I put this in this bag to kind of have it in a convenient location. You want to take this periodically. Basically, whenever you get done charging and you're about to go out for a ride, like when you're plugging this stuff up or whatever, go ahead and check the balance of the pack. Plug it in, wait for it to, you know, do the little menu and it'll show the balance of the cells. So plug in and check both of them. And if both of them look good, keep going. After 10 amp hours, just pull out, check it again. It takes 30 seconds to check. Unzip it, plug this in, good, plug it in, good. Put it back in here, zip it up, go out for another 10 hours. I would make a habit of checking the pack every 10 amp hours, not because the pack is going to fail or is a shady pack or whatever, but it just puts you in a good practice of checking your battery, because your battery is like a kid and this bike is an investment for you. So go ahead, just do the extra work. Like I said, it's 30 seconds. If 30 seconds is too much, then this isn't a hobby that you want to be in, and then you might have some heartache down the road because you didn't do simple checks. So whenever you're done with the charger, I know the charger has the balance on it or whatever, and you're, you know, ready to go or whatever, take it out, double check, you're good, ride off. After 10 amp hours, then you can tell by looking at your cycle analyst how much you've discharged out the pack. After 10 amp hours, just pull over, check it again, make sure everything is good, and you want to see the voltages be rather close. They don't have to be exact, but they need to be very, very close within, you know, let's say if you see 4.01 and 4.02, that's rather close. But if you see like 3.7 and 3.9, then there's a problem and you need to figure out what's going on, because there's an issue. Is this pack is not supposed to be out of balance. It's supposed to stay in balance all the way through the discharge, all the way till it gets down to like 35 amp hours. And that's when you start seeing the cells drift apart. But during the middle of the ride, check it at 10, 20, 30, they should still be close together. Once you start getting down to 35, that's when you start seeing them drift. But by that time, that's when you should be making it back home to the charger. This pack will give you a full 40 amp hours, but just kind of stop around 35 just to be safe. And only use that last bit as like a limp home reserve. When you ride off, you know, you want to check your cycle analyst, and you want to see 50.4 volts on the cycle analyst. That lets you know that you have a full charge on the cycle analyst. If you charge with the Zibin, it's going to be slightly less. I think your Zibin is set up to like 49.7. So if you use the Zibin charger, you're going to see 49.7. But always make sure you have a full charge. And make sure you reset the cycle analyst after you charge. So if you know you fully charged your pack, go ahead when you set everything up and you finally zip up this bag and you're ready to hop on, go ahead and when the cycle analyst is on, go ahead and hold the right button, and the right button will reset all the results. But if you do multiple rides on the same charge, you don't reset it. So let's say, you know, you go to work, come home, go back out, come home, go back to work, you know, every time you get on the bike, as long as you haven't put it on the charger, you shouldn't have to reset the cycle analyst. When you put it on the charger, go ahead and reset the cycle analyst, and so you know that you have a freshly charged pack. Another thing is one thing that you may experience if you happen to just be riding the bike wrong, in the wrong gear or whatever. I told you about the thermal shutoff, and basically what the thermal shutoff is, basically the bike will lose power and it'll be dead in the water, and after a few minutes, all of a sudden it has power again. And again, if you use it too aggressively right after it kicks back in, it'll cut out again. So if you find yourself hitting the thermal limit, more likely you're riding in the wrong gear. The riding style that you really want to do with this bike is basically just embrace that it's a stick shift. And so basically, if you're in assist level 1 through 4, you should be able to shift through the gears as a normal bike. But in the higher power levels, you want to make sure the bike has shifted into the proper gear before applying power, especially if you're using throttle. So basically how I normally do, especially if I'm just like really going through the gears and playing on the bike and having fun, basically I would shift the gear, turn the crank about a half a turn to a turn. You gotta do it somewhat quickly, because then when you make that revolution, it's under your own power, and then the motor kicks in, and when the motor kicks in, it can cause a hard shift. So you shift the bike, do one quick revolution, it should drop into the next gear, and then you can pedal or you can lay on the throttle, and you just kind of go through this motion again. So you shift, do a quick turn of the pedal, either use the throttle or just continue pedaling to do good clean shifts. You don't want to shift under load. If you know that you're coming up on a hill, you need to go ahead and start downshifting before the hill. But again, if you're a person that uses pass a lot, as long as you stay in assist level 4 or less, it'll shift normally. In the higher levels, you want to pause and turn the crank real quick before it activates the motor and get it shifting to the correct gear. And trust me, when you have a hard shift, it'll ping or sound like you broke the chain. And that's what you want to avoid. You don't want to do any hard shifts, because it wears out the chain and wears out your freewheel in the back really fast and really easy. So, you're hot dogging it, you have the throttle, you back off on the throttle, you shift, do a quick revolution of the pedals, and you can either, like I said, either continue pedaling or get back on the throttle, and just rinse and repeat that every time that you want to shift as you go through the gears. But you don't have to do that method if you're in the lower power levels. It should shift pretty normal and smooth in the lower power levels below 4. So that's pretty much how you would shift on this bike. Normally, if you're doing some goofing off riding or whatever, you want to stay in gear. Basically, 2, 3, and 4 are the gears you would normally stay in most of the time, and you want to downshift before you stop. Because whenever you start off at the wrong gear, it'll feel like it doesn't have any power, or it feel like it's really, really hesitant. But as long as you're in the right gear, you shift down when you stop at a light, and then you can shift back up. But normally the gears you want to stay in are 2, 3, and 4, and that should keep you around the 20 in the low 20 mile per hour range. The only way that you will be getting up to 8, 6, 7, 8 on this bike is if you're on completely level ground with a slight downgrade. You can probably shift up to those higher gears, but again, speeds 2, 3, 4 is what you want to stay in. And if you really, really have a hard hill to conquer, then you can throw it in 1, which is the granny gear, and it should creep up about anything that you could throw at it. You're a lot lighter than me, so it should have more pickup. But I'm just saying the gears that I ride in are level are gears 2, 3, and 4. So don't go down to 8. But if you're pedaling, if you're actually pedaling along and exercising and pedaling the bike, then you may want to, go to those higher levels. But if you're just goofing around motor only, you want to stay on the smaller numbers, 2, 3, 4, if you're just using the motor only goofing off. But if you're pedaling along and you want, a better cadence for you, then you can use those higher gears and have the motor assist. But it's not going to be, if you're just dogging it out, it's really not going to like being in those higher gears. It uses up a lot of power and the performance won't be that great, So other than that, I think I pretty much covered everything on this bike that you need to know about. You should know how to let the seat up and down. The bike doesn't have a kickstand. Make sure you pay attention to the speedo pickup. You see it there in the center of the screen on the other side. Make sure that's pretty much aligned properly, because I'm not sure, you might kick it or something or whatever. But make sure that's in place. Make sure that magnet is lining up correctly. You have one on the front. The one on the front is for the psychoanalyst. The one on the rear is for the Bafang system. You might get if you get an error 21 on the Bafang screen, that means the magnet isn't hooked up correctly. The magnet isn't hooked up correctly, or is just not detecting a signal from the speedo sensor. So other than that, I think that's pretty much it. I think I've gone over everything that you need to know on how to ride this bike successfully. One of the things with this light up here, the light, it has a very good Panasonic battery, and then it also comes with a charger. Like there's a little rubber plug on it, and then I'm gonna give you the wall charger. So this headlight, make sure you take it off. Somebody will steal this light. So you know, if you're riding at night or whatever, make sure you keep it on, you're stored somewhere safe, because it's a really nice flashlight. I mean, like I said, it's very bright. So, but when you're done, but it should have pretty much like I would say about a week to 2 weeks worth of charge, because there's a really high end battery in there. So you should have hours upon hours of light with it, and then it's pressure. You know, you just rock it in with pressure and pry it out, and it should be adjustable, and you should be able to swing it up or down. And I kind of have it. It's kind of facing down. It needs to be down a little bit more, but then again, you might want it up a little bit higher just to kind of give riders or drivers a second, make them think twice before turning out in front of you. But like I said, I'm going ahead and include that with that. I normally have that light on at night. I will have the other front light flashing, and I'll have the rear light flashing at night whenever I'm riding. Other than that, you know, like I said, that's the charger. The cable should be ready to go to charge this pack. Again, this power supply here, this is the one that's has the fan regulation, and these two can fully power this charger at up to 50 amps. And probably 50 to 55 amps it could power this power supply, and that means it can charge that damn battery in like no time. Like I said, it's going to be about an hour and a half to empty. This is a 2 kilowatt hour battery. There is no bike on the market with a battery this large. So keep that in mind. You shouldn't have any range anxiety. This bike will outlast your ass while riding. So you shouldn't have any anxiety. You should be able to ride to work and back on a single charge and just charge up at home. Keep your charger and stuff safe. Don't lug it around if you don't have to. If you do have to lug it around, put this in the book bag and take one of these spare power supplies to work. This one, like I said, the double unit you can charge at about 50 amps. 50 to 55 amps. This one, I would say around 15 to 20 amps. And this one right here, I don't like this one. This one is kind of smaller and cuter, but I don't like it. And definitely with this one, I would charge around 15 amps on this one, because this one doesn't have as much power. But this unit tends to get warmer than these two. Like, it builds up a lot of heat, especially at the higher amp levels. But I'm just giving you options, and that's like a smaller model that you could use at your job or something if you think you need to charge at work. Again, this one, it has like a 0. The 0 means it's not ground isolated. That's something you don't have to worry about. And Q fan means quiet fan. And like I said, that one's permanently low, and I say I will, change the setting on the charger to around 15 to 20 amps when using it with that one. That one should remain quiet. This one ramps up with low. That one ramps up with low. And like I said, it really wasn't that loud, especially if you have like it in a back room or something like that. You could drown it out quite easily, I think, but if you're in a quiet house or something, it can definitely probably drive you crazy. But good thing it's not that long. If you got an hour and a half and you're still doing stuff around the house and you can deal with the noise, then go ahead and use the double power supply. Like I said, you have multiple options here. And like I said, if something happens with one of these power supplies, don't hesitate to call me, because I think I'm good on power supplies, so I can straighten you out to get a new one. Not that these fail. These running servers, they're really, really stout. So I wouldn't worry about those dying. But like I said, I really wouldn't pull a lot of power from that one since I did quiet the fan down. The fans are there for a reason. Quieting it down defeats the purpose, but they can kind of take the abuse, especially in the wintertime when it's cold. They can definitely remain cool, but if it's like summer and your apartment is like 85 degrees, it's going to struggle a little bit. So, but again, you should always be able to come home with this bike. I mean, there is no reason for you to just be running out of power. And like I said, riding it hard, you should average about 2 amp hours per mile. And so like I said, there's a 40 amp hour battery, 80 miles theoretical range. That's what I'm getting whenever I go on group rides and stuff and I'm goofing off and not really pedaling. 2 amp hours per mile. Since you said you're going to be pedaling, you should get a lot more, probably three to 4. Another thing, be careful with this. Don't apply a lot of pressure. It did have 2 points to mount, but it didn't mount correctly. So I ended up modifying the mount. It should be pretty solid, but I wouldn't give it a direct hit. So I'm trying to make sure I go over everything. This little bundle right here, that's just for wires. Just keep it bundled up like that. There's like nothing sinister. It's just wrapping cables. I think that's it. This video should cover everything as a reference. So I'm not saying don't call me, but this video should cover basically everything there is to know about it. If you do any drastic changes and deviate from the way I gave you the bike, then, you know, that's like consultation time, but you should always be able to refer back to this video on how the bike operates. Again, I'm just going over everything. This is the connector for the battery. This right here is the series plug. It has the cycle analyst and everything all wrapped up in this. Just don't remove the zip tie or anything like that. That's your fuse. That's a 40 amp fuse. I'm gonna give you spare fuses, but you shouldn't need them. The Bafang system only pulls 25 amps. I had a 30 amp fuse in here. I really didn't like the way that it was warping and stuff, so I ended up using a 40 amp fuse. This wire links to this right here. Like I said, that's for the cycle analyst connector. Don't worry about disconnecting this. Like I said, this loops through and exits the bag and connects to the controller. So, battery connector. This pretty much powers up the system and the bike. This should always stay connected. When you plug this in, there'll be like a tiny spark, but that should be fine. Periodically, like every few months, you may want to replace these connectors because that spark will kind of erode the connectors a little bit. But it should only happen like every few months. I would say I wouldn't even say every 3 or 4 months. But you just kind of check them out, make sure they're not looking all gnarly and jacked up. But again, whenever you're riding the bike or getting the bike ready, you plug these in, tuck this in back there, tuck all of this, and right there it should zip up fine without anything hanging off on the side or anything. Everything should slide in, you know, like so. And you zip everything up. I'm going to give you a bike lock. Not sure why you would need it, but you could basically use a bike lock on these zippers. There's a loop on this zipper right here and a loop on this zipper right here. And so when you zip them together, I have like a little travel lock for zippers that you can use to make sure everything stays secure in there. Like I said, it's just the main thing that you need to remember is make sure this is unplugged when you go to connect it to the charger. And basically make a rule of thumb. This, you know, this is plugged in while you're riding. When you go to charge, unplug this and plug this in first, and then plug this in last. If you go to parallel these with that connector down there, if you parallel this first, you will fry the balance taps if you didn't unplug this. So make it a habit. Unplug your series connection first, your series plug first, and then plug this in and then plug this in. So deal with this one first. Touch this one first, unplug this one in first, and then plug this into the charger second. If you plug this in first, you will fry it. And it will fry all the contacts in this, and they would need to be replaced, and it'll probably damage the ones that are on the charger down there. So I just can't, like I said, I'm gonna make sure I'll let you know to get a label maker or something, and be like, you know, did you unplug the series cable first? We're gonna put unplug series cable on this, so it will remind you to unplug this first. And then we're going to unplug this first on here, so you know to unplug this first. But this whole system, even though it looks complicated, it looks like spaghetti wires, it's really, really simple. And I've been using this for years to organize big battery packs like this, you know, in series and parallel, to make it easier for charging. The batteries perform a lot better and behave a lot better when they're in a configuration like this. Again, like I said, I told you my reason for not bulk charging. So, I think I covered the battery portion again. So, like I said, you know, this video is for your personal reference. It'll always stay on my YouTube channel until you deem you're worthy enough to graduate to not having to use it or reference back to it. Okay, again, when using this, you should just be able to plug this in, not have to press any buttons, and it gives you the balance of the packs. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And whenever you use this, basically the negative is at the bottom and positive is at the top. So when you look at the cable, when you go to orient the cable to plug it in, if positive, that red connector, if that red wire isn't on top when you plug it in, nothing's going to happen to this. It just won't come on. So make sure black is at the bottom, red is at the top, and there's a reference on the thing. There's a positive thing at the top and a negative at the bottom. And you want to align the plug to where the pins line up at the bottom. So when you plug it in, I'm going to show you how it looks when it's plugged in. When you plug it in, it should look like this, and you have one pin at the top. If there's one pin at the bottom, it's not going to work. So here I have it. It's not plugged in correctly with a pin at the bottom. So it's not going to work. It didn't power on. So I'm going to correct it. When you plug it in correctly, you'll hear that chime, and a pack that's in good balance will look like this. We got 4.18 across the board. So that's a pack in good balance. So I'm going to go ahead and check the second group. Alright, this one's in good balance, perfect balance. So I'm delivering this bike with the pack perfectly balanced. So, and again, like I said, the way that you're charging, you should be balance charging every cycle. That's the only thing that I taught you. That's the only thing that you need to know is how to balance charge. Again, you can use the Zivin charger, but eventually come back to this, you know, and balance charge. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.